This is an easy one for the outdoor enthusiast. A group of us did it in 35-degree below weather on the lawn of University Hall, the university's main administrative building, to protest tuition increases. Our messages were, "We will freeze for the fees," and "Tenting against tuition." The action started with only 6 people, 2 of whom were paid university staff. We set up our tents, had piles and piles of blankets, and pretty much froze together all night. The following day, we set up a more prolonged presence. We got a bunch of tarps and created a large shelter, dragged a picnic table inside, and made a few large banners to let everybody know what we were doing and why. By the end of the day, we had doubled our numbers. We did a few outside activities to draw people in and started building a sense of community. We sang songs and generally had quite a good, although cold, time. Journalists would sporadically pop by to see what we were up to. By the 5th day of the campaign, we had a tent city. Over 75 people were camping out. The tents covered the entire lawn. People were bringing us hot chocolate and coffee. Most of the campus knew why we were there, and for the most part supported our efforts. People came by to chat or wish us good luck. By the end of the week, we had made the national news and brought news of the crisis facing post-secondary education to thousands of households across Canada. Okay, this is the Tentin, the 24th of 52 actions listed in An Action a Day Keeps Global Capitalism Away by Mike Hudema and read by myself, Kelly Green. In a prolonged campaign, Tentins allow you to pick up momentum and people as you go along. The longer the campaign, if you can maintain it and keep growing, the better the visuals. Why Tentin? This is a good type of action to do when you believe that an issue has the ability to grow, to create a sustained presence, and you really want to put some heat on the decision makers. Tentins take up space and have great media appeal because the press can have complete access to the tent city. The media also love anything that smacks of civil disobedience. Anything that bleeds or is illegal will usually make the news. A tentin may or may not be illegal, depending on where you set it up, but regardless of the legal circumstances, tentins appear to be illegal. The media will therefore be all over the action. Tentins also force people to pay attention to you. In our case, as we were camped outside University Hall, all of the administrators had to pass us every time they went in or out of the building. They couldn't cover us up or push us into a private meeting room. As an added bonus, all the business leaders coming to the university for meetings were made aware of the action and the issues. It was impossible to ignore us. What you need. The basics are people and tents, but for this action to be really successful, you need 2 other key elements: a community of supporters or concerned people, and some great visuals. A community atmosphere is essential if you want your tent city to grow. People in your tent city need to feel welcome, and you should have a good time while you're there. This means that you need to come up with activities. You should have hot chocolate, musical instruments, playing cards, board games, portable radios, ghetto blasters, anything that will help you build and maintain a positive atmosphere. The worst thing that can happen is that spirits start to fade and that people participating grow cranky and tired. The community also has to be welcoming to others. Be friendly to anyone who stops. Tell them they are welcome to join you. If people do bring their tents, help them set the tents up. The more things you can do to create a positive community, the better. If you have the resources to feed people, that feature alone can do wonders. Local unions often have supplies on hand of pancake mix or other food and cooking grills. Ask them to donate, and they probably will. You should have a banner that says who you are and what you're doing, and that encourages others to join in. If the news media take even one picture of your banner or interview you in front of it, you get your message out to the wider world. The more signs you have around the camp, the better. You want to make sure that if and when the media show up, regardless of what they shoot or write, you will get your message out and the signs will help you to do that. Number 25, t-shirt making. And in brackets, ask me about East Timor. So this is 3 on the fun, 0 risk, 3.5 on resources. Lots of people make t-shirts with messages emblazoned on their fronts or backs. This little number is a spin on a traditional t-shirt action that I liberated from a group in San Francisco. If you have information you want to share with others, say so on a t-shirt. Mine says, ask me about East Timor. It works. I've had person after person come up to me and ask me about it. It leads to a lot of conversations and even some good friends. We now use t-shirts for every action we are working on. Why t-shirt making? Most actions have tons of knowledge about a variety of issues. The problem is that these issues don't come up in everyday conversation. The only time you get to talk about it is with people who already know the issue. The t-shirt opens up the possibility of dialogue with strangers, which is always a good thing. People also want to know about different issues, but often don't know where to get information, and political events, teach-ins, and that sort of thing can be intimidating, or possibly even boring, for the average person. A one-on-one conversation allows you to clarify points and answer questions. What you need. Well, here you can see that in this lighted room, somebody looks like they're silk screening some t-shirts. So you need some t-shirts and you need a way to put messages on those t-shirts, I guess. You can put slogans on t-shirts or fabric in a number of different ways. One, you can do it freestyle by using a paintbrush and acrylic paints broken down with fabric medium. Either use 2/3 paint and 1/3 fabric medium, or half-half if you want the paint to be thinner and less opaque. And of course you need an old t-shirt. After you're done painting, let the shirt dry for 24 hours, and for a long-lasting result, simply turn the t-shirt inside out and iron it with low heat. You can use a stencil. A wise woman named Corinne taught me how to use thin plastic as a stencil. This plastic can be found at any store that sells school supplies. You're looking for a thin yet rigid plastic, like the plastic used for overheads or clear portfolios. Then you can use stencils or your own creation to write a slogan and or design on the plastic. Use a sharp knife to cut the stencil out, preferably over a cutting board. Then put the stencil over any t-shirt or fabric and start painting away. Again, acrylic paint plus fabric medium. The advantages of this method are that you can use the stencil over and over, and it can also be used on hard surfaces. You can also use spray paint for stenciling on hard surfaces. Another way of doing it is to use a cheap silk screening method. For this, you need sheer curtain material, which can usually be found in secondhand stores. You also need 4 fairly thin lengths of wood for the outer edge of the frame, usually 1 inch wide by 1 inch thick, or 1 by 1.5, and whatever length you want for the size of the frame. And about 50 flat tacks and grout sealer. Connect the pieces of wood together into the shape of a frame. You can either use screws or nails. Screws work better. It is very important that you create a flat surface when making this frame, and that none of the frame edges can twist around. Next, cut out a piece of the sheer curtain material so that each side of the material goes about 1 inch outside each edge of the frame. Then, using the tacks, start tacking the material to the frame. The objective is to stretch the fabric so that it fits nicely over the frame. Tip: start tacking half on one side of the frame and then half on the opposite side, and so forth in the material until the material covers the frame tightly. Caution: making it too tight can rip the material. Next, turn your frame around so that the flat screen faces the direction of the ground and write your message and or make your design on the new screen using grout sealer. You may want to write your message out first with a pencil, not with a felt pen. Let the frame dry for 24 hours. Put the frame towards light and fill in the little holes found where you used the grout sealer. Wherever there are holes, the paint will seep through. Let dry for another 24 hours and then you can start using your new silk screening frame. Put the flat, tacked surface on any piece of fabric and paint over the screen. The paint should only seep through where there is no grout sealer painted on the screen. Therefore, whatever you paint with the grout sealer, the opposite will show up on your fabric. If you want the letters of a message to show up in paint, you would then have to paint the grout sealer around the contours of the letters. You can use the screen a few times in a row before rinsing it out with water. Make sure the paint does not dry on the frames. Remember to use fabric medium with your acrylic paint. Number 4, maybe the easiest way. You can now buy iron-on paper that will work in your computer printer. So you can take an image from a computer file or from the internet, print it out, and then you just need to iron it on a t-shirt. Easy peasy. Number 26, mock protests. Mock protests. Sometimes the best way of bringing attention to an issue is to take support of it to the extreme by staging an ironic protest. Here are 3 examples of mock protests. Walk for Capitalism. This is an event founded by Protos, an Australian radio host, street singer, and right-wing activist, an admirer of Ayn Rand. The event, which occurs worldwide every year, advertises itself as being for the love of freedom and the glory of human creativity. Worldwide rallies, concerts, debates, awards, street parties, workshops, fun, and festivities. In 2001, a group of us infiltrated their march dressed in business suits and carrying signs. Profit before people. The environment is for suckers. Local sucks. Buy from multinationals. We gave media interviews on behalf of the organizing group and made the entire thing look even more absurd than it already was. And you'll see a few mock-up signs for the mock-up protest. Arms show. When an arms show came to town, we were there with signs saying, "Why wait? Destroy the world today." We even went into the conference and set up a makeshift booth for the button, a device that would destroy the world. We were there for 15 minutes before we were discovered, but our message was picked up by the press and got through to others inside the meeting. Anti-choice rally. At most anti-choice events, you have the usual clashes between the two sides on the issue. This time we decided to stage a mock protest and reveal the absurdity of the anti-choice movement with carefully placed signs. Every egg is sacred, and menstruation should be abolished. Each egg should be fertilized. We were able to deliver a pro-choice message in a unique way. This one is a little more dangerous, especially if you're a woman. Go with a group. Why mock protests? In the activist community, in protest situations, people get tired of the same old messages and need a little levity. The mock protest can reveal the absurdity of your opponent's arguments. Mock protests are also a great infiltration device. Groups that you fundamentally disagree with often hold events to gain support and raise money. Doing a mock protest jams the event and can dissuade people from joining. But use this action with caution because it can be dangerous being on the inside of a hostile crowd. What you need: signs and messages. You need to make sure that your messages are absurd enough that people realize you're being ironic. You don't want the press to take you seriously unless you want to do a media hoax. See Action 31. Okay, this is a short one. 3 actions today from An Action a Day Keeps Global Capitalism Away by Mike Hudema. Coming up on number 27 is pie slinging. And you can see a trebuchet down over here for jumbo pie slinging adventures. February 28th, 12:30 p.m. February 28th, 2025, 12:30 p.m. I'm Kelly Green. Thanks for listening along to my little reading room today. And please do come back. We've got half of this book to go. All right. Peace.